Hello and welcome to Unbuilt Giants, a series that looks at the development and demise of some of history's most notable and sometimes bizarre skyscraper projects. The Qatar National Bank Tower was one of the most ambitious unbuilt skyscraper proposals in Doha's early 21st century building boom. Planned for a prominent site at Corniche Street and Markia Street, it was intended to become the headquarters of Qatar National Bank, a 510-metre, 101-storey office tower that would have stood among the tallest buildings in the world. Its scale, location, and client made it more than a speculative high-rise. It was conceived as a national corporate landmark for the country's leading bank, a visible expression of Qatar's financial confidence during a period when Doha was trying to define itself as a Gulf capital of global architectural consequence. The background to the tower lay in the growth of Qatar National Bank itself. QNB was established in 1964 as Qatar's first Qatari-owned commercial bank, and later developed into the country's largest bank and one of the dominant financial institutions in the Middle East and Africa. By the 2000s, its expansion coincided with Qatar's wider transformation. Hydrocarbon wealth, state-led infrastructure investment, a fast-growing financial sector, and the rapid development of West Bay and the Corniche created the conditions for a new generation of prestige towers. Doha was no longer only adding office space, it was competing symbolically with Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait City, and other Gulf centers through height, skyline identity, and architectural spectacle. The QNB Tower emerged in that atmosphere. In 2008, reports described Qatar National Bank as preparing a new head office on the Doha Corniche, rising to 510 meters. At that height, it would have been taller than Taipei 101, then the world's tallest completed building, although it was already clear that Burj Dubai, later Burj Khalifa, would soon move the global height record far beyond it. Even so, the proposed QNB Tower would have been extraordinary by any normal office building standard. It was planned not as a mixed-use hotel, apartment, and office stack, but primarily as an office headquarters, giving it a particular corporate clarity. It would have announced QNB's institutional status in a way that conventional headquarters buildings could not. The design team associated with the project included KEO International Consultants and Peddlethorpe Architects, with BG&E identified as the structural engineer. Peddlethorpe's involvement is also reflected in later architectural model documentation, which records a scale model of the Qatar National Bank Tower designed by Peddlethorpe Architects of Melbourne. KEO was listed in project data as an architect and was also reported as project manager. The project, therefore, combined a major local consultancy presence with Australian design and engineering expertise, a common pattern in Gulf Supertall development of the period when international design practices worked with regional delivery teams to produce landmark schemes at very large scale. The tower's published specifications were striking. The official height was given as 510 meters, or 1,673 feet, with 101 floors. It was to be an office building with a gross floor area of about 235,000 square meters. Some project reporting described 5 basement levels, around 88,000 square meters of parking, approximately 9,000 square meters for entrance and banking halls, and about 138,000 square meters of office space. This program suggests that the building was not simply an isolated vertical shaft, but a large headquarters complex with substantial below-ground infrastructure, major public and semi-public banking spaces at the lower levels, and a large quantity of office accommodation above. The site on the Corniche was central to the tower's intended meaning. Doha's Corniche is one of the city's defining urban edges, facing the bay and forming the visual foreground for the West Bay skyline. A 510-metre QNB headquarters there would have been seen across the water and from much of the central city. It would also have joined a cluster of other large tower proposals of the same era, including plans for very tall buildings connected to convention, commercial, and mixed-use development. In this sense, the QNB Tower belonged to a particular moment in Doha's urban history, when height was being used to project national modernity and institutional power. The design appears to have progressed beyond a mere sketch or publicity image. Contemporary reporting stated that the project was being divided into several construction packages. The first package concerned enabling works, including a diaphragm wall, excavation, and piling. This package was already on site and was scheduled for completion in February 2009. The largest package was to cover the shell and core, including the concrete substructure, basements, structural steel, curtain walling, lifts, escalators, and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing works. A further package was to cover fit-out work, including internal walls, partitions, doors, screens, raised access floors, toilets, furniture, and finishes. This level of procurement detail indicates that the project had advanced into serious pre-construction planning, even if the tower itself never rose. By 2010, the project still appeared to be active enough for construction procurement to continue. Qatar National Bank was reported to have shortlisted 2 Australian contractors, Multiplex and Grocon, for the contract to build the 101-floor, 510-metre headquarters. This is significant because it shows that the scheme had not disappeared immediately after the 2008 announcement. It was still being discussed in terms of contractor selection after the global financial crisis had already affected many real estate and construction markets. Yet, the later record shows no completed tower, no superstructure rising to its intended height, and no opening of the building as QNB's headquarters. The reason the tower was ultimately not built is not recorded in public sources as a single, formal cancellation statement. The most reliable conclusion is therefore cautious. The project seems to have fallen victim to the gap between an ambitious pre-crisis Supertall concept and the practical, financial, and institutional realities of delivering a 510-metre office headquarters. Its design was completed and technical and procurement work advanced, but the building was not constructed. The period in which it was planned was marked by very high confidence in Gulf real estate, followed by the disruption of the 2008 global financial crisis and a reassessment of many extremely tall schemes across the region. Doha itself saw several major tower proposals delayed, changed, suspended, or cancelled. In that context, the QNB Tower appears to have become commercially or strategically unnecessary, too large for the bank's eventual accommodation requirements, or insufficiently justified when weighed against cost, risk, and changing development priorities. In conclusion, the Qatar National Bank Tower was intended to be a monumental corporate headquarters and a defining element of Doha's skyline. At 510 metres and 101 stories, it would have been one of the world's most prominent office towers and a powerful symbol of QNB's rise alongside Qatar's own economic transformation. Its design and development progressed far enough to leave a substantial documentary trace, but not far enough to produce the tower itself. Ultimately, it was not built because the immense ambition of the scheme was overtaken by practical constraints, changed priorities, and the post-boom reassessment of Supertall development. What remains is one of Doha's most compelling unbuilt skyscrapers, a tower that reveals as much about the aspirations of its time as many completed buildings do. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more episodes coming soon. See you next time.